Hey, welcome to Backyard Bows. I'm Brandon, and today we have another Elite. So we have the 133. Let's talk a little bit about just Elite in general. They came out with a whole bunch of new bows this year, and I think their pitch, which when I looked online, and we'll talk about their website here in a second, but when I looked online, it actually says like now there's something kind of for everyone. And I think that's so true. And I love the way they have their website set up. So if you go to their website, right off the bat, you get all your different bows and you get like a little description of what their intent and their vision was for each bow, which I love because a lot of people are like, why have so many bows? This is kind of confusing. I love that. And when you go to the 133, you got accuracy and agility meets performance and value. Okay, so I'm not gonna call this a budget bow because the last time I did, you guys let me have it. And we listened to you guys. So I understand that. $900, $950, $1,000, even $850, $800, that's not considered a budget bow in the hunting world. My first thought was anything under $1,000, we were gonna categorize as that because mostly everything was over $1,000. But what I think Elite did here, and I think it's so important, and I kept saying somebody's gonna do it. Prime did it with the Ronin. You have the Justice from Bowtech, or there's another one that they have that's a little bit less price. And really what these companies are doing, they're giving you the quality and the value without a lot of this new technology that we're seeing. They're leaving that off, but still giving you a really nice quality bow that's claims to perform just as well, leaving off the technology that some people might not utilize or want. And the more technology we put on these bows, I hear more and more guys say, well, there's more stuff to go wrong. And I understand that. I talked to a guy in the shop the other day about a Bowtech, and he was like, man, it's a lot of nuts and bolts and screws and things that can come loose and things that can, make something become off. And I think Elite has something very similar with the tuning system. Again, people are a little deterred from that sometimes. And then they cut that price down a little bit for you. And I've said it before, economically, which we'll probably start seeing a little bit better economy here soon because my man Trump's in office, but $200 is honestly a lot. So when you're saving up and factoring in the accessories and everything else, if you know that you can get a bow a little bit less, still good quality, great shooting bow, but for a little bit less, I think these are gonna be a hit. Now, whether it's worth the price tag that they give it, that's kind of where I'm gonna factor in here at the end. They gave us a little bit off. Should they have given us more? Should this be more like a $700 bow instead of a $900 bow? I think, and that's where I'll kind of weigh in at the end. But quality, one, it's a wicked little bow right from the start. It looks really, really nice. I love the riser. The quality of it's great. You still have the inlays on the grip. It looks like a really nice Elite bow. But again, you don't have your set technology on there. You don't have the 1/4-inch instruments on the module system. A couple of those things that we like to see on our Elites, they've left off. They do have the integrated rest part on the back, but they don't have the Picatinny rail on the front. So again, they're picking and choosing what they want to give us. But somebody said in a comment, I said I was looking most forward to these Elite bows, these new series of bows that were coming out by Elite. And somebody said, is he joking? Nobody's looking forward to Elite. Everybody just looks to Mathews and Hoyt. And if you trust the channel, if you're a follower of the channel, you should never look past Elites, ever. If you're in the market for a new bow, they are of the best quality, okay? Some of the cleanest shots, period. And they steadily do this from bow series to bow to bow to bow. They keep this unbelievable, beautiful shot cycle. I mean, they're some of my favorite bows. They're not the fastest, okay? Not the last couple years, but to me, some of the best bows on the market. So if you are looking past them or you don't know about them, I'm telling you, I promise you, it is worth your time and effort to drive a little extra further to somebody who holds them. Whatever you can do, I think you will always be surprised when picking up one of these Elites. And now they have a ton, or they got the Exalt LD, which caters towards those longer draw guys, which I've also picked up on that by working in a shop as well. Like, man, when you're a longer draw, like, it sucks. There's not a ton of options out there for you, and then you gotta pick from fewer options and find one that fits you, where somebody like me or 29-inch draw, man, you have the pick of the litter and you could shoot any bow out there. Those longer draws, I love that they're catering towards that. They came out with the new Eon Carbon. The Artist, on here it says compact power and ultimate control. That could not be more accurate. If you haven't seen that review, go check out the Artist. Okay, let's go over the specs. Some really nice specs. Right under 33 inches axle to axle. 6.125-inch brace height. It's 4.6 pounds. You get a 50, 60, 70 pound option. It goes from 23.5 out to 33.5, which is awesome. okay? So my vision for this, you know, I got a new 17, 16-year-old that really likes hunting. He wants to do an upgrade with his dad. His dad don't want to pay 1,300 bucks. This is a perfect bow to grow those last inches with. I mean, to last through those years because of its durability and quality. So I love that it has a nice long draw length. And you get a 336 on the IBO, which is right there, kind of smack dab in the middle. Really nice riser. I point out the integrated rest. Has a couple holes on the side for your sight. Really nice limb pocket, okay? Everything on it seems very, very secure. It has most of the dampening mechanisms that you see on the other Elites. It has that backboard on the side in case you want to switch out that draw stop mod, have a little bit solid back wall. The module system doesn't do those 1/4 inch increments that we like, but this is a whole new mod. I like the look of this cam and mod setup. So let's do our single shot assessment. Let me get one of these new full metal jacket match grade that we've been doing these reviews with now. I have that CB Micro Tactic. It's simple to set up. I love CBE, CB and Elite, kind of brother sister companies. All the CBE sights I absolutely love. Then we threw this just kind of inexpensive bee stinger out there. I mean, it has some nice substance to the bow, but honestly, it's for 4.6 pounds, it balances out well. And when I first pick up a bow, like the Artist seemed more stout. It was a little bit more compact, but this one, the way that it's lays, the way that it's set up, it kind of just, it seems a little lighter even though they're about the same. So let's go ahead. So the draw cycle, it's a good pull. And then you can kind of feel it at the end. So you have a little bit of hump to get over. It sets in nice once you're set up. It really doesn't want to kick back over on you. It kind of, you know, it has a nice little back wall to it. You can relax. The shot cycle, I will say, of all the Elites I've shot, this does not feel like an Elite. So you know, and when I say this, I'm imagining me like closing my eyes, having, you know, the 5 Elites that I love here on the table, throwing this in the mix. I bet you with my eyes closed, I could feel just from the shot cycle which one was which. So yeah, it has a little bit of hump to get over. It balances nice though. Once you get it set up, the length of the bow, the weight of it, it all distributes really nicely. When you're in full draw, this thing sets up real nice. You can definitely feel a little bit of shock in your hand. Does not have that Elite finish that I always talk about. And then right here, you gotta make sure and be conscious of that in that draw cycle, because it's a big enough hump where it's gonna wanna pull back on you. But again, the more you shoot something, the more familiar you get, the more you can anticipate parts of the draw cycle. The draw cycle to me never matters, honestly. Not nearly as much as the stability. Even like that clean finish, I love that. Like that's something Elites have always just, I've just loved about them, is that shot cycle. Everybody talks about a draw cycle. I think the shot cycle to me always stands out so much more. This one does not have that Elite finish. But before we step outside, let's run it through this chronograph real quick. I'm eager to see what this is gonna get on a speed test. We'll get the speed and the sound while we're inside, and then we'll go outside and do that freestyle shoot. So we'll do our 3 different weighted arrows. We'll start with the one that we're gonna do the grade with. I got my 500 grain arrow here. And if you have not followed us, my arrow grains, honestly, I try to range in there with like that typical hunting arrow, the hunting arrow that we'll see more. So we go from 440 to 500 to 560. And that's just my personal range of arrow weights that I've hunted with. I've really never gone too far below 440, even if I have. But that's kind of the range I like to stick in. So we got 30-inch draw, 70 pounds, 500 grain arrow, 282. Fuck yeah. Sorry, that is humming. That's perfect. That's just my perfect speed. My target speed, so I always talk about this, but you want to target feet per second. Everybody says, I only shoot 70 pounds. I only shoot this arrow grain. I only do, it's like, I think you should have a target feet per second, personally. You can always tinker with the poundage for comfortability. You can tinker with the arrow weight to achieve whatever you're wanting, but I think it's better to start with an idea of feet per second than just to stick with, you know, what you've done in the past. So let's shoot another 280. So we're gonna give it that 8 out of a 10 because I want to. Let's go up to 560. I also think this bow is gonna have a little strength to it. I think it's gonna hold, even though we're bumping up this arrow weight a good amount, I don't think it's gonna go down too much. So usually when we're in the 280s, when we bump up the arrow weight, it's like 263. I think it'll be a little bit higher. Personally, 272. I'm telling you, I can predict this. Just by the feel of the bow. You got, I mean, this is a nice stiff riser. You have some really nice tough limbs here. Now, we're gonna be over 300, guaranteed, okay? 440. Oh, 297, close. Man, that is awesome speeds, okay? So, let's turn it around. Let's get this sound test real quick. The last one, I think we did the artist. I filmed it, but the audio wasn't working. I'd already returned the bow. That's why that wasn't in there for those of you who are asking. But I always try to get this in there. I know a lot of guys like this test. And really, if you break it down very scientifically, which it has been before to me, I would have a hard time giving it back to you guys. But it makes sense. The reaction times of deers, I think, personally, all the speeds that we're seeing nowadays, if a deer is not spooked, you are not going to have a problem with any of the speeds that we see on any of these bows, okay? Out to 40 yards. You get out to 50, that's a little bit different. And then if you have a deer on high alert, that is also different. But our ranges in here have gone from like 82, 84 up to like 95 or something. So we'll get the decibel, we'll shoot 3 shots. 89. Okay, so I've said several times, anything under 90, at this point, we're not factoring into the grade. I just consider it a positive. .4, so we're nice and consistent. And for those of you who do not know, we have the reader up here. The Big Shot Vegas bag with that dampening system in front is all the way outside the garage. Try to get it as far away as we can so it's not making too much noise and the reader's picking up the bow instead of the 89. That is a very accurate, consistent reading. I like that, right under 90, that's perfect. So the speed test and the sound test to me on this, both real positives here. All right, freestyle shoot. It's so hard, days like today. We got the buck on November 1st, so I gotta wait 15 days before I can get another buck. I have this 10 points. It's like stomping around, hitting every camera at this one property. It's driving me crazy. So I'm not hunting over there because to be honest with you, if he walked out in front of me, it'd be really hard not to shoot. So I'm gonna hunt a completely different property today, this afternoon, but I'm gonna get a whole bunch of arrows through this first, and then we'll go over there and can't see if we can get another freezer queen, keep filling that freezer. So, freestyle shoot, we'll shoot a whole bunch, all different angles, distances, everything. We'll really put some reps through this bow. We'll start over here. We got a boar at 25, a couple bucks at 30. I love the way this thing sets up. Man, when you're in full draw, it feels really, really good. If I'm gonna be critical, the draw cycle is not my favorite. The shot cycle is not my favorite, but it holds well. So, beggars can't be choosers. You want a bow that's gonna cost you a little bit less money, gonna be easier on your wallet. You're not gonna be able to pick and choose every single thing that you like about a bow, and you're probably not gonna get the perfect feel, and that's kind of like the give and take of everything, especially when you're making investments and buying things. So I'm somebody who always likes to spend a little bit more money, get exactly what I like, maybe save up, spend a little extra time saving up, get what I like, than to just buy something. But let's go, we'll go a buck quartering away from me. This is perfect right here. This hole's really nice. Really nice. The hole's my favorite part so far. So We'll work our way up. Once we get over the gazebo, we'll really have to. But man, the hole's beautiful. And that's kind of like where I'm going to leave it. The hole is beautiful. The rest, you know, you'd be giving and taking a little bit. But let's go over to the gazebo. So we'll climb our 3D ladder. We'll work our way all the way up to 50 from 20. 5-yard increments. I love this little setup. I can't stress it enough. If you're somebody who really wants to make some leaps and bounds archery shooting, create yourself a space that you see yourself shooting in every day. For years I shot at one target. It was a cheap, you know, deer I got offline and had it out there, and I shot that thing till the insides fell out, and that's just kind of how it goes. But I can tell you right now, I shoot more frequently, more productively now that I have this space. So it's not a must, but if you can, I think it's something that's really beneficial. So let's go turkey, 20 yards. We'll go all the way up, walking ourselves up this ladder. This is my favorite thing to do. We'll go coyote 25. We'll go broadhead buck, which I'm about to change out for that elk. This thing is falling apart on me. I always say when you're testing broadheads, like you're not going to see too much of a difference in flight. I think it starts at about 30, so I shoot a lot of broadheads at that broadhead buck at 30 yards. We'll go gray wolf 35. I love it. I love the whole, the draw cycle, it is what it is. You know you're getting those extra feet per second. That's all I can say. You know, when you're gonna compare the artist to this, you know you're gonna get those extra feet per second solely in that draw cycle. That probably is gonna also play a little bit of an effect in the shot cycle with that string coming back with a little bit more force, but for some reason it just doesn't have that same feeling that you get. So let's go Mama Black Bear at 40, and then I'll collect some arrows and we'll do a full draw stall. Let me shoot one more at that. I like leaving every animal on a good note. There we go. Let me get some arrows real quick. So with the full draw stall, I think you're really testing two things. You're testing, one, the back wall, how much effort you're having to put into it. It's pretty much testing all the components and mechanisms of a compound bow and why, you know, what makes a compound bow, and it's the ability to hold it more accurately for longer, you know, at less weight. So you're building up in traditional archery all the way till its peak at full draw, your peak holding weight, and then you're letting it loose. Here, there's let off, and your usually holding weight is a lot less than your peak weight. So that's kind of like, this is that test for that, pretty much in a nutshell. We're gonna test the back wall, then we're also gonna test, as I fatigue, holding the bow for longer and longer, the little bit of instability that might be in a bow is going to be magnified. So that's kind of like why I do the full draw stall. Also to assimilate any scenario that you might find yourself in the hunting world. So let's go ahead. We'll go 1 minute. So I love the way it sits. The amount of relaxation that you have, it's like a perfect median with this. It built up pretty quickly though. You're gonna start straining, you're gonna start fatiguing, you're gonna start having to put more effort into pulling it back, which is going to factor into your release. You know, and I like doing this. Before I started filming, the reason I would do this was just to assimilate hunting scenarios. So what I would do is I would build up. So I would do a 5-second hold, 10-second hold, 15-second hold, 20-second hold, 30, 25, 30, 35, 40, and I would try to build up and get better at better holding, because I found myself in so many positions where I was drawing too soon. So really, it was a give and take between me being more mature of a hunter and playing out scenarios a little bit more patiently, where I'm not having to hold so much. But then also, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just find yourself and you're like, shit, I'm gonna have to hold this one for a second. Okay, and then produce a well-placed shot. So for me, it's not a well-placed shot. I mean, I like to be within that little circle. Some people might say, you know, 3-4 inches off. That's still, especially on a larger animal, that's still, you know, well inside a paper plate, well inside the kill zone. But again, I think that's something that you can practice at home too, is kind of a build-up or variations of hold. So now we have a buck at 45 yards quartering to me. I like to throw it like a tougher shot in there. Again, anything where you're having to hug shoulders and really your margins for error are so small. When something's perfectly broadside, again, as you guys saw in that video the other day, perfectly broadside, I shot him a little back and still ripped through his guts with that G5 mega meat. I was able to find him. You know, if he was quartering to me and I shot him back, that would have gone out like the back hip. Again, your margins for error are so much smaller with the angle at which that animal is. So when you're setting up your course, kind of factor all that in there. I like to play out all the scenarios I can. And even when you practice and you play everything out and you practice and you play everything out, even then, you still occasionally place a bad shot on an animal, hoping you can recover it like I did. So, and that was 30 yards. To me, that's a chip shot. You know, I'm usually poking hearts on those, but for some reason, I wasn't patient. Deer took an extra step. I didn't counter. Playing it back in my head, I feel like an idiot, but man, sometimes things just happen. So can't beat yourself up too bad. You can give yourself and the animal the respect it deserves and really get after it and look and make sure you find it, which sometimes can be tough, but with a little bit of diligence, you can, you know, usually find a gut shotted animal. Get a couple buddies out there and kind of run and grid on the property, and within 100, 150 yards, this one was 250 yards, so it took us a little bit to find it, but we did. Let's go 45 yards. That's a great shot. The draw cycle is tough. So, you know, the more I draw, the more I'm shooting, the more the day progresses, I'll probably do like half dozen arrows, go do something, half dozen arrows, go do something, half dozen arrows, where usually I put like a dozen in, and then I'll do a little gardening, blow the leaves, something like that. But this one, I'll probably do half dozen, switch it up. But this thing's humming. I can tell by just slinging these 500 and these are like 530, 540 grains. I mean, these things are flying, you know, on a dot, on a string. So, all right, so when we do the bighorn at the 50 yards, so I do something called the quick 50. So if you're at home or you're by yourself and you're really doing it, this is what I would actually do. I would put a paper plate. I would do 3 quick 50s, and you want all 3 of those to be on that paper plate. And a quick 50 to me is a draw, hold, release, all within under 4 seconds, 3 to 4 seconds. So it's quick. But let's just shoot a normal one, and then we'll do a quick 50. Money. Now, again, quick 50, 3 of these, plate, 50 yards, 60 yards. It's a great test for stability. And really what I'm looking for is how quickly I can get the bow level, the sight level, and then how quickly the pins will dial. So wherever they are when I first draw, they're still. Now I can counter and move them where I want, but I'm not having to re-counter. And I feel like that comes from a bow that's either instable, you know, that's not stable left and right. I find that personally when I get a really acute angle from a bow that's not meant to be shot at 30-inch draw. Most other bows, 30 inches axle to axle and above. Nowadays, I think you're really splitting hairs to figure out which one is the most stable. It also has to do with the cam system that's on it. But that's a great shot. Now let's do a quick 50. So again, if you're on a plate, I think that's just a good rule of thumb. And if you want to do the full draw stall at home, do a whole bunch of different variations of holds. You don't know how long you're going to hold in the field, and I feel like that's something that's really vital to practicing if you're new. Everything that you think you want to happen in the field and the way you play it out day to day to day as you're practicing, it very rarely happens the way you want it to. And even when it does, you can still make a mistake. Execution is so vital. So everything played out perfectly, came up the path where I set, went straight across to the rub so I could get my broadside shot, and I still botched it. So again, I make mistakes. If you've been hunting for as long as I have and you can sit here and honestly say you haven't made a mistake with shooting a deer, fuck, that's awesome. But I feel like that's rare. So if that happens to you, it's all right. You just gotta go back to the drawing board and keep practicing. All right, 2 elites down for 25. I will do the Eon. The Exalt we'll throw in there if we need a filler bow, but that's, I'm so much more excited about other bows at the moment. We're gonna have to jump to some other things. So right off of the bat, I loved the speed. It was even faster than the Artis by 5 feet per second in here. So you got 282, so an 8 out of 10. That's an awesome speed. I mean, even held its weight with that heavier arrow. This is a great hunting rig. I mean, it has some perfect specs for a really large range of hunters. I gave it an 8 out of 10 for the quality. Elite bows to me are some of the best quality bows out there. I'd say this one is a tad notch right below some of their flagships, but it's right there, very nicely well made. They're some of the most solid bows you can get, okay? That's something that has stood out to me. The more and more I've done, the more and more elites we've had in here, the more and more I realize that they're just some of the best quality bows on the market. I gave it an 8 out of 10 for an appeal. I like the way it looks. This thing is nice and solid. It has a really nice shape to it, nice riser. I love all the riser designs this year. All the stuff that they came out with is really sleek. Whoever's designing these is a true craftsman. I mean, he's made some really good looking bows. I gave it a 6 out of 10 for the technology. You do have the integrated rest spot on the back, no Picatinny rail on the front. You do got some nice let off play and then a really wide range of draw lengths. And again, when you get to such a wide length of draw lengths, what I've realized is like anything all the way maxed out or at the bottom, they're probably not gonna perform as best. You know, there's always that sweet spot for those bows who get really long draw lengths with really long, you know, draw weight options. There's those bows out there that fluctuate a ton. There's always like a sweet spot where that bow is gonna perform the best. And then I gave it an 8 out of 10 for performance. This is right there, kind of with the Justice, a little bit better than the Amplify by Bowtech. The Ronin, I think, outperformed this one a little bit, but all of these bows that they're starting to come out with where they're leaving the technology off and just kind of giving us that stout quality, nice hunting rig in the simplest form, they're all great quality bows that perform really, really well. I think an 8 out of 10 for performance. The amount of effort it takes for, you know, the amount of time I shoot outside. And so something else, if you guys have not watched, we shoot a bunch outside. So we'll do the review talking points in the morning or on a Saturday. We'll shoot all day. Sometimes don't do this part or even the speed test until the following day on a Sunday. And then we'll start getting all of our videos in for editing. But we spend a lot of time with the bow in the backyard shooting. The more and more I shot this, the more fatigued you get. By the time I got out to those 50-yard shots, the amount of effort that you're having to pull into the draw and the just kind of the hold of the bow, again, it's gonna decrease some of that performance and stability a little bit, you know. So again, we're always splitting hairs in here. People always wonder, like, how do we come up with our grades and stuff? We put some good thought into them, and really it comes down to just my opinions and preferences, but. I have to split hairs somewhere because that's why we're doing this, is trying to create some separation between everything. But I gave it an 8 out of 10 for performance all around. Mostly, not the speed I loved, and I'm always looking for things too. So even the shot cycle, the feel in the hand from beginning to end was not as noticeable as to me. But when we first do our original single shot assessment, I'm looking for things with certain companies. And elites, they've always been so clean that stood out to me. But by the end, it wasn't something that I noticed and would even consider being a negative. So I kind of changed my mind with that one. I think the draw cycle, you are getting a little bit better speeds. They're kind of advertising this as kind of like this hunting rig, which I love, but you are having to get over kind of a little bit hump on the tail end. I would probably, and this is where you kind of fluctuate with that feet per second, like I was saying. My target feet per second is 280. So I know I would immediately, if I was to hunt with this, I'd go down to 65 pounds. I drop my arrow grain down just a little bit, and I would achieve my 280 feet per second. I guarantee you down to 65 pounds, and maybe we should do it, but I'm sure that draw cycle smooths out a little bit. You go down to 63 pounds, this thing is probably right there on just the butter of performance side. But at 70, which is kind of what we grade everything at, 8 out of a 10. Then you got a 38 out of 50, you times it by 2, you get your 76. Now it gets 2 makeup points because of the price, and this is where we kind of factor in that price. 0 to 500, you're gonna make up 3, 500 to 1,000, you're gonna make up 2, 1,000 to 1,500, you're gonna make up 1, anything over 1,500 bucks, you don't get to make up any, so it gets to make up 2. So you got a 78 out of 100. Really love this. I think this is a sleeper bow from Elite. Last thing, do I think it's worth the price? This is what we were gonna decide on. I would have liked to see this bow come in at $749.95. Okay, right at $750. I think they would have a little bit easier time getting it off the shelves, pitching it, running with their advertisement online, just being that kind of affordable bow. Right at $750, $800. Okay, now if you're gonna go ahead and spend that extra $100 and buy this, I think you're getting your money's worth. I think it's something that'll last through the years, and I think you're getting a great little hunting rig. I'm just saying, personal opinion, from what I've seen, I would like to see some of these companies come in a little bit lower on the price tag when they're taking all the technology off and stuff like that. Don't buy a bow for a single bow review. Make sure you get into a bow shop, try a bunch of different bows. Try the one that you think you'd never shoot, try the one that you're really sought after, and then find something in the middle. And I promise you, one will stick out more than others. We are also structurally different. Our biomechanical makeup's so different. Everything about us, each as an individual, is so different, so it's gonna really change our preferences and what we like and how everything feels to us. You know, you can take into consideration recommendations from friends and family, but always get into a shop and shoot them for yourself. And for those of you who have never heard of Elite, I promise you, it's not a sleeping giant anymore, they are a giant. Now, whether they want to be as big as some of these other companies, that is up to them individually as a company. But I think the products that they're producing are equally and potentially even outmatch some of the biggest competitors in the archery industry. Elite is one of the best bow makers modern day. I mean, they have really outdone themselves these past couple years. If you have not checked them out, I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Backyard bows approved through and through. I've hunted with several of them. I still love the Omnia. The Omnia and the Artist, those are fighting for that top spot, but both of those are really, really incredible bows.